Welcome. We're about to dive into the story of a single New York neighborhood that honestly captures the whole city's spirit of constant change. We're going to uncover the hidden history behind Tribeca's famous cobblestone streets, from who laid them in the first place to who walks them today. And our whole journey starts with the surprisingly modern story behind its very famous name.
So, we've all heard it. Tribeca. It just has a certain ring to it, doesn't it? It sounds historic, maybe a little fancy, but what does it actually mean? Well, the truth is, it's way more recent and a lot more practical than you might think.
And there you have it. Tribeca is actually an acronym, a name literally cooked up by its own residents, and it just means triangle below Canal Street. It was created by artists back in the 70s who were fighting to get their live work lofts legally recognized. They were basically following the playbook of their neighbors in Soho, which, you guessed it, means south of Houston. So this isn't some ancient name. It's a name born from a community taking action.
All right, so, long before it was ever called Tribeca, what was this place? To really get the neighborhood, we have to rewind the clock, way back to a time when this slice of Manhattan looked nothing like it does today.
That's right. Before any cobblestones or cast iron buildings, this was swampland. Seriously. The area was called Lispenard Meadows, and it was a huge stretch of marshy, open land owned by one of the city's biggest power players, Trinity Church. It was, for all intents and purposes, a blank canvas on the edge of a booming city.
And the very first characters in our story? Well, they literally left their signatures all over the neighborhood. As the landowners started developing the area, they named the new streets after themselves, their families, and their powerful friends. Names you still see today: Douay, Moore, Leonard. They're all echoes of these founding figures, written right onto the map. And boy, did they develop it. By the 1820s, that swampland was long gone. In its place was this elegant, exclusive neighborhood built around the gorgeous St. John's Park. This was Tribeca's first real identity, a quiet, polished, residential haven for New York's wealthiest families. But that polished elegance, it would barely last a single generation.
Yeah, that whole elegant residential era was incredibly short-lived. The neighborhood was about to be completely transformed, not by families and fancy parks, but by the unstoppable engine of commerce and industry.
And the change was fast. I mean, really fast. In the 1840s, the nearby river docks kicked off a commercial boom. By the 50s, it was a textile hub. But the real game changer? The elevated railways that arrived in the 1870s. They just supercharged development. All of a sudden, the area was all about business, and its skyline became dominated by these massive new store and loft buildings.
Just look at this image. It's such a stark reminder of how huge that change was. This one single 14-story factory from 1929 is sitting on land where 6 beautiful 19th century homes used to be, right across from that now vanished St. John's Park. Industry didn't just move in, it bulldozed the neighborhood's residential past.
Of course, with all this commercial chaos, you need some order. You need infrastructure. This building right here, the old police station on Leonard Street, is a perfect example. Built in 1868, its sturdy design was there to serve and protect a district that was just buzzing with merchants, cargo, and a whole lot of money.
But you know how these stories go. Just as the industrial boom replaced the gentry, another huge shift was on the horizon. By the middle of the 20th century, those factories and warehouses started to empty out, setting the stage for a totally new generation of pioneers with a very different vision.
It's almost like history was rhyming. The economic engine that built those giant warehouses just sputtered out. Industry moved on, and what was left behind were these incredible architectural shells, huge, full of light, and most importantly, they were cheap.
This massive opportunity attracted a whole new kind of resident, the artist. They were basically following the same pattern that had just played out right next door in Soho. In both places, artists looked at these huge, empty industrial spaces not as relics of a dead industry, but as the absolute perfect places to both live and create their art.
And this was a totally revolutionary idea at the time. These artists, the new characters in Tribeca's story, completely redefined what a home could be. They took these raw industrial spaces and turned them into these amazing studios and residences, inventing the whole concept of loft living that is now a global symbol of urban cool.
So the artists built this incredible new community, one that would be tested and ultimately strengthened in the modern era. This next chapter is a story defined by a moment of just profound tragedy and the incredible resilience that came right after. The September 11th attacks happened right here. Ground Zero is part of Tribeca. The devastation was immediate. It was personal for everyone who called this place home. And for a while, the future of all of downtown Manhattan was deeply, deeply uncertain.
This quote from longtime resident Robert De Niro, it just captures that feeling perfectly. In the face of that kind of loss, everything else just seemed to lose its meaning. But it was that very feeling that pushed him and so many others in the community to do something.
So, what do you do when your neighborhood is on its knees? You throw a party. The idea for the Tribeca Film Festival was born directly out of this need to bring life and energy and business back downtown. It was an act of creative defiance. And you know what? It worked. The festival became this powerful global symbol of New York's and Tribeca's refusal to be defeated.
So all of these chapters, the swamps, the gentry, the warehouses, the artists, the revival, they've all layered on top of each other to create the vibrant, fascinating neighborhood that's there today. So let's wrap this up with a quick look at the Tribeca you can go out and explore right now. Today's Tribeca is this incredible mix of old and new. You've got the iconic Ghostbusters firehouse, of course. You have these beautiful green spaces like Washington Market Park and the huge Hudson River Park. And just everywhere you look, you see those historic industrial buildings and those original cobblestone streets now totally buzzing with new life.
And speaking of that firehouse, here it is. This is Hook and Ladder 8. It's a real, fully operational FDNY fire station built way back in 1903. But for millions of people all over the world, it's just Ghostbusters headquarters. It's the perfect example of how all these layers of history and pop culture just live side by side in Tribeca.
So from swampland to movie sets, Tribeca's story is one of nonstop reinvention. Each and every generation has looked at this neighborhood and seen a canvas for something new. Which kind of leaves us with one final thought. What story do you think the next generation is going to write on these historic streets?